Morning, all. I'm listening and watching the news about the June's upcoming UFO disclosure by the US government. They say it might be delayed, you know, great surprise, but I am watching it with interest. Some of these pictures that they released that they say are taken by US Navy personnel are pretty amazing in terms of UFO footage. And some of these crafts I recognize. I've seen them before in the UFO literature, like the triangle shaped UFO we are 95% sure is a US drone from the Black Ops community. But some of these look like they might be things like the puddle jumper from Stargate Atlantis. And there are some very interesting phenomena like the tic tac things. And I've uh, done a little bit of trying to talk with this phenomena in the astral, and I've gotten some interesting results. And I've scanned them using the threat map tool, and nobody seems to. Well, I haven't scanned them specifically. I asked if anybody on threat map recognizes this as one of their own, and nobody would recognize it. Spain tried with the help of Portugal to get it into the this is the children's weird magic camp, but that didn't fly. And a lot of these countries are worried. They they would like to claim this, and in the standard sense, when there is some kind of unknown, you get something called inviting themselves to the party, which is everybody who dislikes the person the unknown thing is happening to is claiming that it's done by them. This is a known thing, but it is perhaps so weird that nobody is trying to claim the thing. And that to me is worrisome because usually these things are immediately claimed from the Taliban to the US intelligence community and everybody claims it's theirs. But this thing seems to be genuinely so weird that people don't want to claim it as their own. I'm going to upload maybe like 15 minutes of threat map talk to YouTube, but my camera doesn't work properly, so I can't record it while I'm doing this. But you will see what the threat map thing feels for those of you who are able to interpret it but don't have access to it yourself. Or just want me to be the guy in the middle to ask the questions. I am, when I look at these things, getting an image in the astral. I get an impression. I'm going to talk about it, but keep in mind this is highly speculative from a highly uncertain source. This isn't like me scanning the fifth element woman and having some actual idea. This is me having a pretty low bar estimate, but we'll see what we can come up with. I get the impression that the people in these crafts are human. They are human that have some Eldar or Elven characteristics, but those are minor. They say that they aren't technologically that far ahead of us, so it's not like us flying a stealth bomber over the Pacific island or the island in the Indian Ocean. It's not that far advanced. And they say that with some amount of luck, we should be able to catch up to them relatively quickly. They haven't put a time frame, but they say that it's not something where they are incredibly more advanced than us. I did some small talk with them, and one of the topics that came up is that they don't eat meat. That for them, finding somebody in their society who eats meat is similar to us finding a cannibal. So that yes, they can do it and put the cannibal on the microphone, But as far as they're concerned, they're vegetarians. They eat, vegetables. That to me was pretty nice. They commented that one of the things they noticed about our society, or have been noticing about our society, is that everything seems a little mucky or dirty. It seems that we haven't developed to the point where if you see trash on the street, you think, what exploded? You just see trash on the street. And that to them is a little weird. They are interested in our civilization in the same way that we would be interested in the 15th century going to India, or perhaps 15th century is wrong here, but going to India for an experience. They are interested in observing us, and they aren't opposed to actually showing themselves for the public consumption, but they don't really know how. They could just appear in the senatorial building when we are doing the review of the UFO case, but they literally think that that might be a little bit, too much. But they aren't actively hiding, and they have been called by the Earth community, many people, amongst them myself, to appear, and they are glad to appear. And they are a smallish nation. Their population isn't that high. In fact, their population seems to be slightly lower than ours. They are interstellar, but travel between star system takes a long time. But communication, there is a light speed delay, but it isn't years between systems. There is a definite delay, but it is much faster than just light speed. And they prefer to have people in system for the study instead of flying system to system to study. These are some of the things that I've picked up, roughly speaking, when I've talked with them. We tried with the US military staffers to see if the communication that I get from them is actually from the US guys, and if I'm just hitting the US intelligence wall. And they concluded no. It looked like that initially, but based on when I was doing the communication and they were watching the crafts appear, their actions seem to coincide in such a way that it seems that yes, you can actually talk with them like in the astral. And I am very curious about this phenomena. And it seems to me that uh, while it would be really scary for us for them to appear, it would be mind-bogglingly scary. It seems something that should perhaps be done. We may desire integration into the interstellar community. And they have stated that since we have developed some technologies such as the internet, the digital brains, neural networks, stuff like that, they aren't really into quantum computing. It's something where they aren't that far advanced. But the whole technological development that we have is such that uh, it's different communicating with us now than it was in the 1950s. You don't have the level of fear and paranoia, and you have actual you see what the human spirit thinks of you the moment you do something. You see the brain react, and they would be interested. Some of our technology is more advanced than theirs, but that's few and far between. For example, in medical technology, we're far behind. But there are things like specific aspects of quantum computing and some things which aren't mathematical in their pure form, but rather interpretive math is a word I'm getting, where they think we are somewhat ahead of them. And they point out that even the most primitive societies on Earth are more advanced than us in some regards, but more advanced than us, Western humans. And they are hesitant to talk of military things, but less hesitant than I am, because I don't prefer to talk of, planet busters with aliens. It is a topic that I would prefer not to discuss. It feels awkward. And they aren't really worried. They think that if we advance the space age, we'll be a nice civilization for the most part. And if we do end up being an asshole civilization, they think they can handle it. So they aren't worried that we will overtake them and end up enslaving them or some weird stuff like that. There's always a few outliers or the paranoid who would think that, but for the most part, they think that we would do well with them. And they are, like I said, appear human, but they have some Eldar or Elven characteristics, such as the ears are slightly pointed, but very little. This, they say, is because they run into and they have the Elven society interacting with their society somewhat, though they point out that the elves are, as our fantasy says, notoriously hard to get a grasp on. So occasionally, if one of them comes over and breeds with the locals, you get DNA mixing. And they said that their lifespan is hundreds, not thousands, but a few hundred years at most. Few people live to be, 300, 400. Most people on their close to Earth ship are in the 100 range. They say that they haven't really interacted with Earth in terms of giving us technology, and this is for them something new. They have been around for a while, but they aren't the classical Greys that gave us, like, atomic weapons or whatever. And they are from a different sect of space people. And it's a hard topic. Usually channeling groups like this, you end up with very imaginative responses. But this seems to be somewhat controlled. They seem to be somewhat more controlled than what you would expect. And it is futuristic, I think. I would call it futuristic. I get the sense that they are one of the future offsets of humanity, but that they aren't in the same close DNA strand or close connection with humanity that is sometimes implied in science fiction, but that they are of the same genetic tree and that they are somewhat more advanced than us. Going into the deep parts of how their civilization formed is difficult because you get an impression of an emotion and you have to translate that into a word. So talking about things like things that I know, things where I have a contact with reality, and when they send an emotion of that, it is easy to pick up on. But when we discuss things like, space age stuff, technology that I have no grasp on, the connection gets vague. But the more close to your reality is, the easier it is to interpret. They talk mostly in in this connection in what you might describe as telepathy. They point out that it's actually closer to pheromones than telepathy, and there are some other things we have discussed, like, well, there are some other things we've discussed, but it seems they are interested in making contact with humans, but they don't know how. They don't know where to land, what to do. So they have picked what to them seems like our biggest military things, which aren't on the land, which aren't like nuclear missile silos or RHQ, and just like try to float around it. Just like, hello, we're here. And they are looking for something like a radar transmission from that ship in open communicatable form where the ship would say something like, "Hi, please talk on this channel," and then they would talk. They're looking for something along those lines. It may not be specifically radio, but something where we initiate with their group and they can respond knowing that it is our desire to talk. And that hasn't happened yet. They say that there have been some cases where they have received radio transmissions from these ships, but they specifically say that they appear to be from a low ranking officer, in that when somebody first sees them, they may send like a radio transmission of object at blah, blah, blah. Please correct your flight vector to blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like they're talking with like a low ranking officer, and that's not something they want to do. They want like the ship's captain to say, "Hello, we have seen you. We have no idea what you are. Could you respond by forming a triangle shape?" That's kind of like what they are expecting, like the first handshake. They are interested in contacting us, but it would have to come from us in a way. There is a chance that they would decide to just land in New York and go like, "Hello." But to them, that is as weird as, suddenly sending a people over to the island. It would be that weird. But as far as they are concerned, they are open to being communicated with. So I will see what I can do. I'm the definition of a low ranking lackey, so getting through might be very easy because nobody expects this to go anywhere. It would be the small talk because I am the definition of a low ranking lackey. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, something you want me to try to broadcast to them, such as the first 10 digits of pi or something, let me know and I will do my best and we will see what transpires. Please listen to the various audio signals in the background because that's, in my opinion, the best way to communicate through unknown. So I'm gonna go to Norse map to listen to some music while I do so. And I'm going to try to get a grasp of what they feel like, what what I get in them. So hi everyone. They're saying that they really don't know what this is and who they are. They are saying they really don't know what they are. Some of them are thinking that it's once again one of my weirdnesses. But as far as I am aware of, these guys aren't me. As far as I'm aware of, my guys use different types of ships. I have clearly demonstrated that my guys use the storm cloud variant. They don't use this one. They are nature oriented, my guys. These seem tech oriented. There's some degree of confusion and aggression in the world community. They are much like lions that have been surprised. They aren't all that friendly, but they are, what's the word? Kind of surprisingly willing to see what this is. Now, I must say that this fits into the Project Bluebeam conspiracy theory quite well, because the triangle shape is one that we fairly certainly know that the US has, and we've seen pictures of this ship in US facilities. So it's possible it's the Project Bluebeam conspiracy, which roughly states that one of these very advanced Black Ops projects will fake an alien landing to get, control. That's the Project Bluebeam conspiracy. But we have scanned these guys using the military of the US as far as, very small scan. And the US military does not seem to think that these are their Black Ops guys. They don't respond to the US military standard postures and communications. And what else? They're saying the only way to prove that some of these ships in my model are actually from, aliens or other spirits would be for me to die. And since, we can't ask you to die for the proof of, you know, alien life, then we need another method. They are openly saying that they don't know what this is, at least the West is saying. And China is agreeing with it that they don't know what this is. And the Chinese are content that they're messing with the US instead of with, say, China, for example. I feel them saying the reason they are messing with the US is that to them, government models matter. They think that the way you run your country is very important. that you eventually, or your soul is the word they used. Their idea is that when you advance, you eventually give more control over to others. They aren't also multi-minded, that I would point out. As far as I know, they prefer the single-minded setup. They have also pointed out that in their understanding, the multi-minded setup is mostly for animals and what we'd call tyrannids. So they aren't multi-minded, which may be good for humanity because most of humanity isn't multi-minded. The map is tuning into me and trying to balance itself perhaps through me and trying to understand through me what they are seeing. There is some level of chaff and confusion, and it is noticeable. They are going through is this the children? Is this the weather weirdness? Is this you guys? Is this, the Nordic aliens? They are going through the motions and trying to pick up what they might be, but they don't really fit into any of the models that they're seeing. I propose that you guys might want to look at Stargate Atlantis, and the aliens said that that is actually quite close. It's close, but it is somewhat off. They say they are peaceful and are interested in, cooperation and common development is perhaps the word. They used a word that I didn't recognize. It sounded like a mix between common market and common development, with a hint of national protection. It sounded weird, but that is the word they used. They say that if they were to come openly and communicate with us as, the alien race, literally, that they wouldn't be interested in sharing technology in the beginning because they have learned that while they might be willing to do so, that our culture considers sharing of technology with your, lower rankers to be something that generally makes a mess of things. So they wouldn't be interested in sharing technology initially. They have also stated that they might be interested in getting some people from Earth and, doing the standard, you can come with us on our spaceship thing. But the US military has said very clearly, don't abduct people right now. And they have agreed to that. They are mostly, as far as I can tell, they're interested in finding some top level contact that openly says, land at this location or do something at this location and seeing what happens. They have been doing this low level interaction with humans for a while now. They say a word that sounds like a few decades, and they say that it's been interesting, but there's only so much you can do talking to, like, not the pack leader, if you will, just talking to the low ranking people, and it is in its own way a dead end, because even if you show and convince this low ranking person of the reality of the contact, they don't have the methods inside the system of the military control to get the information out well. And it just gets compartmentalized and, hushed into oblivion. So they are interested in, instead of making, say, 10 contacts a year, talking to the low ranking people and kind of helping here and helping there and just, being those guys, they would be interested in finding somebody who is high up and public and can withstand the public mockery of our society, or the public stress is the word they used, of our society, so that when they do actually contact this person, they can be assured that such a person has the wherewithal and endurance to go through with the entire thing. They're already saying very clearly that I do not have the health, this contact person, me, I do not have the health to carry this through. So contacting the world community through me is not an option. So they clearly saying that. They're saying that were they to go through me, I would have a heart attack and die. The stressors to my heart would be too much. It would end in my death. I'll see if I get their permission for that. One of my listeners has stated that they would be willing to give it a shot and try to be a contactee. And they have stated a location where these guys could land. He's a low ranker, I can tell you that much, but it might be something that would be interesting. Finland is clearly saying that this would be an interesting option. They are saying that they hear this guy's option, and the guy is saying, with Michigan near the Owosso Speedway. I have no idea what that place is, but we'll see if that one makes the news. I'm listening to them talk about the possible contact location. The US is saying that they'll send, as well as a couple of other nations, that they'll send some observers to the location. So, they're interested. The aliens are saying that it might be an interesting thing, that just for the giggles factor, they might do it. So let's see if it's gone through. Ah! By the way, these guys are about 7 feet tall. There are short ones that are about 5 feet tall, but most of them seem to be taller than humans. I'm pretty low. Hmm. Well, that was a contact. The guy said in clear English that he's pretty low, meaning that he's over that place and he's pretty low. And that is how most of these aliens, from my understanding, work. They have a contactee on Earth going around the humans, and they use their contactees to get the proper contact so that the contactee summons the aliens, and we go from there. And this guy pretty openly said that he's an alien and he's pretty low. That's a little sectoid for you. I am. I'm trying to communicate with the UFOs ahead of the June contact date, trying to see what we are talking about. No, I'm not saying that I'm a UFO. I do have that, strand, though. So there's your contact, Mr. G. Find the guy who said, I'm pretty low, and, you know, talk with him, which is basically the level of you to them, one contactee to another.